This is Trekland HQ, and we are live. When Star Trek protests went digital. Right. Episode 297 of Trekland Tuesdays Live with me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemechek, coming at you right from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47 for some clarity, sanity, and the big picture in all things Star Trek. Hey ho, everybody. Welcome back for another Tuesday. So glad everybody's with us. We've got some of our folks are over cruising on the tour. Yes. Come on, gang. We're going to pop in here any second. They're going to be on the tour, on the cruise, I should say. We've had people on tours before they left. It's been a really busy couple of weeks around here anyway. Not on the tour. They're having a blast. The rest of us are here landlubbers. Some of them might check in. We'll see. They've probably got better things to do right now. But I'm glad you're here with me. Got some history to talk about today. Hopefully a lot of fun. It all spurred over an anniversary that I posted about a few weeks ago. I'm going to get right to it. And I've got some photos here, actually like built into the system. So thank you, Patreon folks. I'll thank you in a minute. But hey, if you are new to Trekland Tuesdays Live, welcome, however you came to us. If you've been new recently, thanks to Virtual TrekCon or whatever, we're so glad you're here. Jump in the chat, say hello, tell us where you're from. I will circle back to the chat. This is the most bizarre format in all of Trek inner tubes. I know. I'll come back around the chat after I do today's main topic, take a micro break, look at what I can of the Parrot Analytics, and then get back to the chat and dive in. I also have a couple of little announcements along the way. Some other things I'm going to save for some special little bits we're going to do this week because I want them to stand alone. But I was tickled today in a big way. Well, I'm tickled in a big way in a lot of ways. So yes, let us know where you are in the chat world, and we'll be right back to you. But for now, and as you do that, remember that if you're on Facebook, you're only seeing the Facebook comments. If you're on YouTube and even Twitch, you're seeing everything. Alrighty, that's why I'm slowly pushing over to YouTube as we did over the virtual TrekCon days. So jump over there when you can, because the topic today came to me on the anniversary date. We pop up and I have fun with the socials with some of the anniversaries, especially if it's something that's personal to me or I have a personal angle on it. And this actually caused a little bit of discussion on Instagram. But no, the 25th, back in 2005, so it's the 28th anniversary, there were sad days in Trek world because Enterprise on February 2nd, as people were kind of bracing, all the optimists say never say die, but the realists and, well, inside folks knew already, but it was publicly announced on February 2nd that Enterprise was canceled once and for all. All the hopes and dreams of people keeping it alive, in-house anyway. The fourth season was not enough of a push. The freshening of the blood was not enough to do it, basically because Les Moonves was tired of UPN, not just Enterprise and sci-fi, but was tired of UPN being kind of a failed experiment, partly because they starved it. They never promoted any UPN series on other networks or on other shows. It was starving. It was, and Star Trek in the middle of that was no longer the golden calf, with Moonves taking all the little rinky-dinky, the turnover of network little tin pot suits was over. Sadly, the WB and UPN had been out of the gate together, and the WB was actually growing. Now, eventually, UPN and WB became the CW. Yes. And it still exists today. But UPN as an entity went away. It and its mix of wrestling and sci-fi and bad sitcoms. They kept canceling the shows they could have kept, and the ratings went down each year. Looking at you 7 days, a couple other ones that were pretty good. So that was the mood in 2005. But Star Trek fans, in their history, in their bones, in their DNA, back in the day, knew that the original series had been the original early cancellation the original show on the bubble that fans saved, well, they saved it for a third year, which got it to 100 reruns, episodes, which in the vibe of the day, the business plan of the day, was enough to syndicate the local stations. And the rest, as they say, is history. When they gave it to the kids after school and put it in the early hours on independent channels as an alternative to evening news or just after. And we don't know what happened. So the whole point was Star Trek was supposed to be on an eternal curve upward. How could anything like this happen? Well, some of it was splitting the market among stations at a time when people didn't know what the word binge watch means. And people were barely keeping up taping on their VCRs. 2005, DVR and digital recording was coming in. And very famously, as we've talked about, no one was paying attention to DVR statistics. Oh, it was a blow off. Well, they're not watching the commercials, and all we care about is getting ad money for the commercials, the Nielsen's. What good does it do if somebody watches us later? Well, lots of people could see that happening, but it was too new. It was the exact same thing as the demographics for the original Star Trek were off the charts, but no one paid attention to demographics until a year or two later. And then famously, as Gene would say, they ran into the studio heads at NBC and Paramount and said, hey, we got your hit show right here according to the demos. All the kids are watching it. The people with the money to buy the consumer stuff that you're advertising on commercials. That's awesome. Who's the show? Star Trek. Oh, we canceled it last year. It was the exact same thing. But in 2005, that was not helping. Moonves was all about and UPN was such a crippled little network. It wasn't even in a fourth of the country. And the channels it was on were the same fate that DS9 and Voyager suffered. They basically might as well have been syndicated. And the local hockey, the local NBA station would bump it to the evenings on game nights. The winter sports were murder on, Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays. So, yeah. So Enterprise was always down low, and then it was always the best rated show on UPN, but yeah, damning with faint praise. So it was canceled. I remember the word came down during filming of In a Mirror Darkly Part 2. Everybody had been so hopeful that they could turn things around, and the audience would say, why did you cancel it in the best season or in the big turnaround season? But the writing was on the wall. With that as a backdrop, fandom was not going to take it lying down. Fandom, with all the hallowed founding father stories of the Trimbles and the mail order campaign in 68 and Can Do, they jumped in to do it. And one guy in Tennessee, a guy named Tim Brazil, who was later cursed by many quarters, but in the beginning started a campaign, Save Star Trek. Now, this is 2005. Since the original Save campaign, fans had been protesting in lots of ways, right? There was the eternal 10-year get Star Trek back in any way. There were even the people, as we talked about on the Trek Files one week, Stab, whatever. They were protesting the animated series because they thought it was going to be the powers that be's cheap pat on the head to get Star Trek back. And they didn't want a cartoon. They wanted live action, a movie or TV series, which was strange. It's the same way people thought they would protest Discovery and get a better show when no, in 2017, you just lose Star Trek for another decade, dummies. There were the people that were protest. So, there's been protests that way. But now the ones we think about, yeah, the 10-year campaign drive, and people paid with their bucks. They bought technical manual, local rerun. They bought merchandise. They voted with their dollars. That helped. But then there was also the protest. Remember the marketing protest against the Wrath of Khan when it leaked that Spock was dying? And there was the very professionally done marketing campaign that said your box office will suffer 25% and your merchandise will fall off the charts if you don't do something about not killing Spock. Okay, well, that looks crazy in hindsight, but that's an example of a rally, a protest campaign. Sometimes it seems counter to even having more Star Trek. There were people that, there was disgruntlement along the way over. The next one I really think about was killing off Kirk in Generations in 94, the Bring Back Kirk campaign. There was the campaign later on for Captain Sulu in the Excelsior. And those were starting to creep in. But what I'm saying here is 2005, to me, feels like the first time that Star Trek really went digital, really went viral with the protests. Now, it was a little old school, because in some ways, There was a full-page ad taken out in the LA Times. Save Star Trek. But Tim Brazil in Tennessee sat down and got a team together and plotted what to do with this. And here's the thing. Rather than spreading in club newsletters, because this happened February 2nd, well, within a few weeks, there was a rally planned for about March 15th to coincide over Creation's Grand Slam in Pasadena, which back in the day was the king of Star Trek conventions before Vegas was existing, but it hadn't hit its peak yet. Everybody's still focused on Pasadena because you got more people because they rolled out of bed and drove over. You got more actor guests that way. So that was the initial plan, but then it turned out that the finale was going to start filming on the 25th. So something in March was going to be too late to do anything if the sets were already being struck, much less folded and held. Fold and hold. So the rally date was moved up to the 25th. Eventually, people caught on to the idea, which was, if you don't want to make, if you don't think the money's there, we'll fund it. How much does a season of Enterprise cost? $30 million? That was the number that was thrown out there. So the drive started. Well, that's, talk about David and Goliath. Talk about the uphill battle, Sisyphus. No way a crowdfund is going to, what do we even have now? $1.5 million, $2 million for the biggest crowdfunders out there? And this is 2005. So, but the most hopeful, optimistic people felt like they could do something, which is what you do when you empower a rally or protest. So eventually, about 140,000 was direct raised. Kids, we're talking about years before crowdfunding. We're talking 2005. We're talking about Facebook was barely outside of college circles. My Facebook account goes back to 2007. My Twitter was a couple years later. You still had to download one act at a time on your dial-up modem if you wanted to see Star Trek New Voyages or Star Trek Exeter. One of the early fan films, you still had to get it an act at a time. Probably about how I got. I mean, we're talking baby days. But you had message boards, you had forums, you had faster ways to communicate than seeing everybody at a con, passing them the word, your club newsletter on paper, your emailed club newsletter. But this is the first time that people really tried to climb the mountain using digital means. What also happened was this rally then was planned for February 25th, which turned out to be the opening day of shooting. Yes, the infamous finale. Trip is killed off. Troy and Riker take it over. Jonathan and Marina feel icky about it. These are the voyages, the Valentine to fans, the well-intentioned but totally misguided, misconceived thing that Brannon has done nothing but have an apology tour for 20 years over. That was the thing. So here you go. It's a rally. It's not confrontational. Actually planned to be set up outside the front gates of Paramount and protesting in collaboration. People know it's happening. There's the ad, and it's happening. So what's funny is I posted about this on Instagram the other day for the anniversary, and I had so many people say, whoa, I had no idea this happened. Now, this is not the same as the Writers Guild strike just 2 years later, 2.5 years later. The 07-08 Writers Guild strike, when different theme picket days were picked up, and somebody said, let's do, after Ron Moore did the sci-fi one at Universal, someone said, well, let's do Star Trek. My God, how many writers over the years have worked on Star Trek? And then you have SAG, the actors, and even directors, and IATSE crew people. And the other unions, they have them sympathetically joining in on this strike, because whatever happens with the first one to strike, the others hopefully share in the bonus, especially if it's in a new paradigm. And this one was all about, residuals from new media, as new media was becoming a big deal, and people were just expected to write. I remember, never forget that, the Battlestar Galactica, Ron's Battlestar Galactica, with the new cool online mini programs that people just were expected to write. Not Ron's decision, but marketing promo execs. So yeah, that was that. This was totally different. This was a fan-driven explosion of frustration. What's cool is it was also organized in other cities, including globally. There was some in Chicago, in Orlando. New York City protested in the snow and went over to the Sci-Fi Channel because one of the fever dreams was that Sci-Fi Channel would pick it up from UPN. Wasn't going to happen, but that was the dream. A rally in London. The New York was at Times Square. There was one in London, one in Tel Aviv, Israel. And back in the day, editing the Communicator, we had a sheet. We had photos from around the world. People emailed me their photos pre-Facebook. Everybody. So there were about 100 people at a time. Maybe people coming and going 200. But what's amazing is, and here we go. I want to show you. So, thanks to New Generation here, Restream on Tuesdays Live, let me show you a little bit about what. Let me see how this looks. Boom. So this is a giant banner. And yes, there's me reporting for Communicator, also helping out my friend Sandy Golden Stone now, report for StarTrek.com. Kids, this is before everybody and their dog had a blog, much less their own YouTube show or their own podcast. So fandom media didn't exist. You had to lean on the entertainment. Yeah. Let me see what I can do here. So here you go. This is, look who came by. So Tim Brazil was the guy in the middle here. Hold on to that name. Yours truly, Mike Sussman, Manny Cotto here, who was show running the last year. And of course, Rod came by to see the fans and talk. Here's Rod and Manny talking. The picket signs were so clever. Some people took the let me see here a minute. Somehow. Yeah. Let me just get back here a second. Here's another view of the front gate, right? And the picket signs. Can you read some of these? I love the one back here, Nielsen Schmielsen. Right. Save Enterprise. This is the top. Hey, Andy Bray, a year before I met you in the Spock's Brain live show at the Improv Comedy Store. A lot of you know Andy since then, but this is Andy holding the top half of the LA Times ad, Save Star Trek. And it was designed where you could take it with you. See? But right there at Windsor, J.G. Hertzler came by to bolster the crowd. There's the one we started with, the large banner. I love that sign, 18 years of loyalty, and this is the thanks we get. Yeah. There's the fivesome, Rod and Manny talking here. Some of these photos are from our friend John Lane at the time. Save Star Trek. Join us at www.trekunited.com, which is a domain that, since all of this, if you click on that now, it goes to our friends at the Federation, aka the International Federation Trekkers, the old IFT. Now they go by the Federation. Big fan group with chapters. Manny was out front. There's a small version of the full page ad, talking to people. Lots of photos, lots of picture taking going on. JG took video. I was thinking I'd love to see if he still has this video on his little 2005 digital video camera of the day. Anthony Montgomery came out, was the only one of the central regular cast of Enterprise who made it out. But he was diving into the fans and talking there. There was a bullhorn going around, which you can see. These these studio security people really weren't there. There was no trouble. Everything was civil. Everybody was, it was like the writing was on the wall, but people just wanted to sound off. So the cars were coming. They were here to keep people from blocking traffic and getting run over, either on Melrose, the street, or in and out of the main gate there. But they were also kind of there keeping an eye, make sure nobody roughed up Anthony or any of the other actors or notables that were there. But nothing happened. Jeff Combs, as we now know, is infamously there doing Shran. Another one of Rod and Manny there with yours truly back doing my thing with my little Canon ELPH camera. No cameras on cell phones, kids. Or if they do, they were so pathetically low res. Manny got on the bullhorn and just basically thanked folks for their support. And we did have news crews and a story I'd forgotten about till I was reviewing notes. In the middle of all this, a Darth Vader, and some stormtroopers showed up. Ha 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 ha. Well, turns out later on, the people I saw, we were just like, well, okay, somebody's just crashing for the attention. What it turned out was back in the day, G4 or Tech TV later had sent these guys over with the film crew tailing along behind them, ostensibly covering the but they wanted to see if there was some Star Trek, Star Wars, pushback animosity. Ooh, fan wars. Which of course is just total BS. It's all been clickbait for 30 years. These guys wound up just joining in the protest after a while. When they saw nothing was going to happen, there was like nobody with a Trek sign was allergic to Star Wars characters. Now you'll notice that nobody on the Trek side protesting is wearing costumes or uniforms, anything. They had been specifically asked not to increase, the respectability cred. Oh no, it's not a bunch of This was right when things were turning. As the digital age got going, as the social media age got going, everybody looked around and realized that everybody was a fan and that the geeks won. They were all a fan of something. But this is one of the last gasps because it was a downtime. People were depressed about there was always supposed to be eternal Star Trek on TV now. We learned our lesson in the 70s. Why would it go away again? And so, yeah, there was some bittersweet. There was a bittersweet mood here, a down mood. But the last thing anybody was going to do was betray their Trekishness. So we were all in one boat. And people felt good for protesting, even though they pretty much knew it wasn't. The amazing thing about this also was I wrote a piece for the Communicator. There was a woman and her husband from Brazil who had flown in from this. People from Canada, Australia, Germany, the UK had flown into LA just for this rally. Now, if there were a few more million people like that, maybe the story would have been different in the long run. But there you go. The big banner here. Here's Rod signing the big banner. I do believe that's Mr. Dave Rossi standing back there, who came out to report back to Rick Berman exactly what was going on. This is what the banner was. If you donated any amount of money, see, you got to leave your name in a comment. So the big Save Enterprise. This was so big. Remember when this was a big deal? You could print them out on your banner printer. The app for that. Another one of Rod talking to Tim Brazil here. News crew with the obviously with the boom mic there. But everything was so many handmade signs and all that. She got the attention of the local ABC affiliate news crew who were out there. The ABC, the CW's crew, Reuters news service was out. AM 640 News Radio was there. WWKD, What Would Kirk Do? It was 2005, gang. And then afterwards, that lasted till about 4:30. Afterwards, over to a neighborhood bar down the street. And Manny went over with a bunch of fans who didn't want to give up the day yet. They unrolled the banner. He's got a copy of the banner. They left it with him. Unrolled it once again. People signed it. Some of the notables who'd come by during the day, some of the fans too. And he made sure and get it signed once again. So there you go. That's kind of the best of the photo album from that day. I did a piece in Communicator. Jonathan Lane, some of those photos were his. He did a piece on his blog. But other than that, and a little bit of TV, I found the LA Times story. It's still in their archive. Other than that, and about a month later when the finale did air, there was a co-sponsor that basically Rod hosted and paid for. The closing comment of that day, aside from everybody thanking them for the support, the bullhorn made everybody feel like little activists with their protest. One of the closing comments was Rod thanking everybody. He said, look, as down as people were feeling, he said, look, Star Trek will never die. You won't let it die, which I'll always remember. And he said, look, no matter what happens, the Roddenberry family will never let you down. Because we were looking at who knew how long. This was a year before the JJ movie was announced, ST09. We didn't know. It was a dark time. We felt so cheated and ripped. How could this happen? Didn't we learn our lesson? Didn't we show the world in the 70s? How is this allowed to happen? Who's responsible? And it was burnout. It was also again, on the cusp of something amazing about to happen, social media and DVRing, with right around the corner binge watching. It was 5, 6, 7 years ago. Once again, Star Trek was almost on the cusp of being too good too soon, like 68, 69 again. But no, that will be what, 30 years? 30 years, no, 20 years. It'll be 20 years in 2 years. So this was 18 years ago. But it struck me writing that up that this was really the first. How did this get organized? 100 to 200 people was amazing. They weren't all locals. There were sister rallies around the country and around the world. It struck me that this was really the first time that a rally campaign got off paper, got off word of mouth, and had the burgeoning internet. Still early. Still, the term social media did not exist, but it was at the time seen as a failure. They didn't raise 30 million. They didn't get Paramount, and they didn't get UPN specifically, or Les Moonves, to turn around and renege the profit motive and see the value in keeping some Star Trek on. The website was, in support. StarTrek.com chugged along until the Viacom divorce screwed that up for 4 years. There was just a lot. It was a very transitory time. Everything was blowing up, right? Viacom divorce, the end of the Berman era. The world was changing. I got caught up in it. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. We had 5, 6 years there. We weren't just in the fallow times. We were in the wilderness, wondering how the world was going to settle if you were somehow attached to something like this. We eventually came out of the woods. It took 12 years to get Trek back on TV and a whole new business model that half of fandom was fighting against. But now here we are 7 years later, 6 years later, and we're getting it. And we see, not just for Star Trek, but we see the next way forward. Although that's even in flux too. How are you going to bundle your streaming apps, and what is just, are we just turning over from cable to streaming and the bills are going to be just as high? Well, that's all going to get settled out. And 10 episode seasons to have more cinematic, all of that is so different than it was in 2005. But I look back at this moment and think that was really the time when Star Trek fandom flexed its muscle, even in a small way, even in a failed way, but it got tons of attention. And did the mainstream media look at that as the last death throes, the death rattle of a once proud franchise that was going to go away, even as the world was changing, which is what some idiots were predicting in print? Or was it a harbor of things to come? Which is now which look back at it now and think. Now, the whole Save Star Trek, the whole Save Enterprise campaign famously got very controversial. After this, and by the time of the finale, it turned out that it was revealed that Paramount and UPN had told Tim in no uncertain terms, look, you can raise money till the cows come home, but this show is dead. It's almost exactly the same way NBC looked at Gene Roddenberry and said, this is dead. Dead, in your best Trelane impersonation. But people were pissed by April that fact hadn't been, that the campaigning went on. Now, was it scam? Was it fraud? No, I think it was just, no, let's keep it up. We can't back down now. Was there some ego involved there? Sure. Was there some same thing happened when the FedCon, the hallowed FedCon convention in Germany was licensed in the US, and there was a FedCon USA convention held in Dallas? Not the best marketing thing, but middle of the country maybe, but it would wind up being a total flop with its 15, 20 guests, the place where all the guests, the thing Friday night opened and Saturday morning was canceled and then extended into the day before the airport hotel kicked everybody out. Wonderful memory I have with John and Bonnie Billingsley, so many others that were there, and remember being told to shut down midway through a panel. That was wacky. And then everyone gathering. It's almost like a mini Con of Wrath. Okay, well, why wasn't that canceled when it was obvious there weren't enough bodies to fill it up? There were some dreams going on here. I just think, once again, sometimes the dream exceeds the grasp. The money was all returned, supposed to have been returned. In fact, Trek United, which was kind of absorbed by the Federation, was supposed to see to that. The $3 million that was individually pledged by 3 high-end individuals which technically allowed them to say they'd raised over $3 million. They were pledges. Well, the pledges were never paid once the whole thing bubbled over. So that took care of itself. And a lot of people are very, very sore to this day about as you will see when you read the comments, it's been, what? I can't do math fast. 18 years. But some people still remember that end of it, where this went. But what I'm talking about today is the day when, for the first time maybe, there was a global response to something that fandom didn't like. Did they immediately make a change? No. But it showed people, and I'm not just talking about printing out big banners with signatures, making up the letters, but it showed what people were capable of. It showed there was a little life in the old girl yet. This franchise that people were proclaiming in the mainstream media and entertainment worlds, oh, Star Trek's dead, and it'll be 10 or 20 years before it's recouped enough energy to come back. No. I mean, even if we're having fake universe movies for a while, getting a lot of attention and a lot of new fans, but we would eventually get back to it, and the world would reinvent itself, but we would eventually get back to having small screen weekly adventures again. And then some. 5 series in a year. Yeah, they're all short runs, but come on, 5 more animation, different points in the timeline. It's a fan's wet dream from the 90s. At least it's this one's. So maybe we will finally get that series set on Teller Prime or Star Trek West Wing. But you see, and a lot of those fans and those folks, those pictures are still around with us today. Most of that was LA area fandom, yes. But I just like the first time fandom roared in a big way without stamps and paper. And I want to make sure, I saw so many folks saying they had no idea that existed. I just wanted to go back and point to it. I did. I have a couple things. That's it. So I'm going to get into the chat here in a minute after we look at some parent analytics. I did have a couple things I wanted to highlight today, though. Let me see if I can do this. I'm going to, come on, girl. Yeah, I want to share something with you. Yeah, oh, who cares? Just real quick. So Sandy Fries, who was a first season writer on The Next Generation, has some of his goodies up at an auction. Trek Core. Can I do this? Yes. Trek Core had a story here. You can go back and see several items. This is from February 26th. Alex did this story just a couple of days ago. Not all these items are Sandy Fries. There is an auction going, but I was going to Next Generation. I mean, this stuff here. These are Sandy's things, including his handwritten first draft for Coming of Age. Right? Wesley takes his psych test. He's got some early Okudagram signage here that's in the lot, some call sheets and things related to it, and from his experience there. So check that out. The story, I will give you the. Here's the. Now this is the story, which will have more links. I think that's the simplest way. So shout out for Trek Core. Sure, I'll throw that at you. There's a link to the actual auction. Again, not all the auction items are Sandy's, but they're all historic things. The auctions come up from time to time now. But Sandy Fries, who was there in the beginning, has some first season Next Generation. Just the idea that he had the handwritten script here is amazing. I want to throw you over to that. So, how's your week going? We'll talk about it some more here in the chat as soon as we come back from that. But yeah, I wanted to leave you with that little history lesson. Hey, we're making tons of history right now. People are talking about Picard. We can talk about Picard. We can talk about. I hope you're watching our Second Opinion. Those are starting to get some traction. So as we think about that, here's the perfect chance to say not only Trekland Tuesdays live, but hey, everybody who is in on my Patreon, you're helping with Second Opinion and basically spread the reach of Trekland Media, my channel all over. So here's this week's weekly shout out to everybody in the TTL Club, our Patreons like Diana Hopkins, Robin Wilson, Lawrence Todd, Anne Marie Siegel, Justin Porteous, Glinda Bruton, Oh, Chris Jiggins, you're the newest member up here. So Andrew Jasemski, Pranakasha Productions, and Gay Clevin Lundstrom, and our live wires, Halbert Gunn Johnson, Robert McLean, Alan Hoensi, J.R. Poole, Byron Bailey, Dave Gregory, and Casey Shafsky. There you go. If you'd like to jump in, I keep it very simple. Maybe I should make it bigger, but for right now, everything going on, we keep it down to $5 and $10. Patreon.com/Trekland Live. You might see somebody else you want to support when you're at Patreon, maybe. Have at it. Have at it. They do that at the end of the month. Today's the end of the month. If you want to jump in right now and help us out, you can. But the burgeoning coming of Second Opinion is another brick in the wall here of building our streaming outreach, which is getting off beyond paper and stamps, which we haven't done in ages. Anyway, gang, I just want to remind you this week that the Trek Files, my podcast for Roddenberry, is still in hiatus. We're going to be coming back for our 10th season later next month, next month still. So check it out. But 9 years of back catalog is still there, including 4 of the last 5 we just did with Dave Blass, production designer in Picard, and Terry Matalas, the showrunner on Star Trek Picard Season 3, especially. You're enjoying Picard. You want to get there, podcast.roddenberry.com is where all the podcasts are for Roddenberry. We're at the Trek Files with the documents, or you can get the audio anywhere. But you want to get the documents and see the cool stuff that we talk about. We're the only podcast with homework. Hey, I want to do another shout out today at 5 Pacific. What is that? 8 Eastern. I'm going to sit in for the first hour of the Seventh Rule, the main viewer, with Ryan and Anne-Marie and probably Melissa, and I don't know who all will be there, and we'll talk about things Picard today, so you want to catch me live, and a lot of the chat pack here will be there tonight too. For everybody, I have to get it out. For all my Portales in the audience, yes, tomorrow is March 1st, and it's our Ask Dr. Trek roundtable for the Americas time zone and anybody in Europe that wants to get up at 3 in the morning. So I'm going to get that to you too. Then Saturday, I have part 2 of our, it's too late to jump in, but I've got a group of people coming off the cruise who are going to take a special Trekland Treks, a group one, for an LA Away Days tour. And hopefully we will not be dodging the snow and drizzle quite the same way we were a week ago. So I, invite you to come over and check out my channels if you want to see more about that. I haven't even posted all the pictures yet. So here we are. The mysteries of Picard are unfolding every week. It's a great time to be a fan. More will be on the way when Picard's over. Again, follow the socials. Follow Dave and Terry and so many more on the teams. Doug Drexler's, Okuda's are reposting. So many Easter eggs, and it's just not even Easter eggs, deeper levels of what they did for these shows. It's the great old days where they know, even if it's not on camera, and a lot of it isn't, check out Jim Martin's new Tongo game that was in Sneed's Ferengi Den of Iniquity on Metalis Prime in District 6. District 6 will never be quite the same term, and it's going to be up there like Starbase 80. But a lot of fun. I hope you're able to watch Picard right now. It's pretty effing amazing. But right now, we're going to take our leave for just a microsecond, okay? If you want to follow me, you know what it is. It's Larry Nemechek on Twitter and Instagram. It's Larry Nemechek's Trekland, where you're watching right now. Especially go like us and subscribe on YouTube if you can. And Instagram. Portal47.net. Yes, it's your mini-con all year long, in between the cons and the cruise and whatever virtual is happening that weekend. Hey, everybody. It's great to be here with you once again. Hang on. If you are watching us later right now on YouTube, try to come by and watch us live. We just ended a great sale at our TeePublic store. TeePublic sets those up randomly. So you might want to catch that if you want some swag for any of our brands and things. But some Cadet Alice stuff is very cute and pink, I should say. Otherwise, it's been great to be with you for Tuesday. Join us live if you can. Subscribe if you're here watching later. And check out the Second Opinions and some new Cadet Alice coming soon. Come on, until then, do all the things, right? Stay healthy. Just common sense stuff these days. And don't knock those who are looking out for themselves the way they need to. Okay, let everybody, my God, if we can't let everybody take care of themselves the way they feel like it, what are we? Oh, yeah, the root cause of half the other issues of the world. But let's do it anyway, okay? And I say stay woke. I mean, check your sources and be open to the information that they never told you. Okay? I guess I'm saying truck well, everybody. Okay, so the Parrot Analytics. If you're new to Tuesdays Live, it's the company we've been watching since the beginning of Discovery. They tried to come up with a way to measure digital shows because the old Nielsen's that looked at commercials to set ad rates, and that's how you knew popularity. They were measuring audience reaction. Does it work with the digitals? We've been following them. The Nielsen's are themselves trying to get back in this game. Other people are doing it, keeping it apples to apples. They measure the internet. They scour the internet for what they call their average demand expression, which is basically the highfalutin word for buzz, with a lot of other factors thrown in. They do it in several countries, in dozens of countries, big and small. We've been looking at the US top 10 every week. Lately, that's gotten a little scattered. I think they're selling off. They're making money. They're monetizing it. And they're selling off to places like TV Geek. So currently, on the Parent Analytics site, they're a couple of weeks behind. They've only posted February 10th. So they're still posting numbers from before the Picard premiere, which is wacky. Now, even then, it was Picard was sitting in their outstanding category, the upper 2.5%. Okay. They were saying even then, for a 30-day trend, it was up. The 30-day trend was up 20%, and which was there even before it aired, which shows a huge sign of buzz. What's happening is they're selling their data, and that week it had been as high as 3 and 5, and it settled back at 8 because once the debut happened or it was getting close, it was a little die down. What I'm looking at is over on TV Geek. On TV Geek, apparently they're buying the rights to Parrot the Modern, the really timely of the day of the week, and by their estimation, what you're getting there for this week, the demand score, the average demand is up at 45. Well, here this week before, they were sitting at 23. So they're ranking it, and the peak demand is 46. So 45, 46, the ranks, that's times the average show. With nothing to compare to, I don't know where it falls in the top 10 this week, but they're saying, supposedly, they're saying that amounts to 14th, which to me, 14th and 15th, which to me seems rather low. I thought they would be in the top 10. Anyway, the bottom line here is that the trend line is hot and climbing. It's steady or up. Don't know how it could be much hotter. So, whenever you post, make sure and hashtag Picard, Star Trek Picard. So that's a healthy showing. And they also, are putting up the international. And you expect Great Britain, Canada, and Germany, Australia are all the big markets there. It's 100% travelable here, as they say, but it's huge. 60%, 59 in the other countries. It's down just a little bit. Maybe that's the trend line settling in, whatever. But it's the 99th and 31.31th show in action adventure in the US. It has more demand than 99% of all other action adventure shows. So there you go. That's what passes for a Parrot report this week, gang. Anyway, let's dive into the chat. I am really serious to see if I stir anything up or to see what anybody wants to say about Picard or what's to come or with some of the rumors swirling around. There's been some buzz out there about what's coming up later and new management changes at Paramount Plus and how successful the other Paramount Plus is no longer leaning. This may be a topic here in a week or two. Paramount Plus no longer has to lean on Star Trek. So is that good? Does it take the focus off Star Trek, the pressure? Or is that bad because now Star Trek is, as I said before, no longer the golden calf in another era? We'll see what that means. But right now I am back scrolling to get everybody, see what's going on. I don't know how many we're going to lose for the cruise. If you are new, I will try to call you out and shout out if I'm mistaken and you've been here lurking the whole time or whatever. We will see what happens. Hey, John Fraser, everybody, you're checking out Star Trek Unlimited, right? The awesome products. You'll be over here today in Facebook, I guess you mean. Yay. Okay. As I said, or perhaps I'll be on this account today. Very cute, Frage. Everybody you should be supporting, much less following John on his accounts. All righty. But how about that little in-house photo display show, kiddos? It's almost as good as a virtual TrekCon panel, huh? There we go. So hi to everybody. Dr. Dave, you were able to join us in the daytime, Dr. Dave. That's awesome. Oh, that was a sad day. Yes. Good deal. Mona, I'm glad you could join us at any time. Cute, Mark. Here's a personal thing. You remember crying when Enterprise was canceled. You had no memory of there being no Trek on the big or the small screens. And you were one who loved Enterprise from the beginning. Yeah. Yep. Hi, Anne-Marie. Yeah, it was surreal because we just assumed that now that we'd had the growing pains of the 70s, that people got it. There's a worldwide phenomenon, and why would Star Trek ever go away completely? It made no sense. We didn't know it was a growing pains. We were saddled with dinky UPN. Oh, hi. To hear you. I hope we still. And everybody on the tube side, thank you, Dave, for being over there. Hello, Wade. Wade, I think you've been with us before, right? If not, but good to have you here anyways. You are no stranger. Hey, May. Anne-Marie, you always post this, and I'm never exactly sure what you're referring to. You mean my shirt? What are you talking about? This is amazing. There you go. Hello, Donnie. I've been seeing your name popping up and around, and everybody. Oh no. I hope that we did not keep having breakup stream issues. Oh no. Really? Are you kidding me? No, not on the cruise, but I hope our picture got better, gang. Goodness gracious. It may be because I'm trying to do a lot of visuals here and I needed to have a pristine as possible stream. Oh, let's see. Hey, Booter King is back. Own a lot of Star Trek NFTs now, all worthless. Yeah, NFTs just felt so un-Star Trek-ish, which good on the Roddenberrys for pushing back on that as soon as people, brought that issue up. Yeah, maybe next year, maybe next year. Well, Mike, I've always said that what Moonves hates more than Star Trek is things that don't make a profit. And he could very easily see that it was not making a profit in the short term. Now, the fact that you had a fan base and events and merchandise and you had all the synergistic, spin-off. And then later on, yeah, no small satisfaction, but it didn't help 2005 Star Trek 10 years later. Absolutely. This is kind of what many people eventually wound up saying. Why? No. You picked up on that, right, Melanie? That was all intentional. Not the Star Wars people. That was not intentional. Although it was just a big ha to the whole thing. They did not, suffice to say, get some Star Trek, Star Wars fans fighting. like a bad skit from a bad comedy show. Guten Abend, Deutschland, der Alte. Let's see. Mike Falderoff, and they won in the end. Did I? Oh, hi, Mike. I didn't call you out. If you're a newbie with us here on Tuesdays, thanks for coming by. And if you're breaking out of the lurker closet, that's cool. Put away your laundry, and you didn't march and protest, but you signed, or petition. There you go. Mm-mm-mm. Well, this is what everybody did. When you have a fallow time, as happened in the 70s, we didn't need that to be replayed for us. People knew they wanted to keep their Trek alive. And now we had a whole lot more. We had hundreds of hours now than we had in 1969, and a lot more directions to go to make it your own. And this was before 3D printers. And when I think I'd first heard the term cosplay instead of going in costume. Yes. Gosh, you would not be the first, Mona, to play that game. It was a FedCon. One time, before it even happened, they had already said, we will never, ever license the name again. Because Dirk and the gang in Germany, as it got closer, were so afraid of the thing falling on its face and tarnishing the name FedCon. Yeah, we'll do some anniversary talks about that. That was the weekend that I met Alec Peters, as well as got to know many more of the cast than we had seen before. Watching Bonnie Frederici run around being Phil Donahue for her husband on stage was a revelation. June 2008. Absolutely. Well, Linda, it was probably like 10 or 12, 15 people. It was probably somebody with a club. I mean, a group, not somebody with a club, somebody with a, live group before there were Facebook pages, and went down. But definitely we have pictures. There you go. And once again, there is the link to Sandy Free's auction, everybody. And I think so too, Amazing Treasures. So there you go. Hey, Johnny, good to see you, my man, and jumping in here. Oh, Anne Marie. We can talk about how amazing Larry's Second Opinion videos are. Brie and I keep watching that epic intro. Oh, dum. Yeah. No, wait, that's Cadet Alice. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Kyle, for coming up with that. Yep. I'm pretty proud of the title too. The Second Opinion, Dr. Trek. Yeah. Does the marketing and the bylines, the taglines all make sense? I hope so. Everybody go watch the preview. The preview for the Picard season, Second Opinion, was like my hottest, spikiest video ever of anything. So thank you. Okay. It was fun. That's not a death knell, right? Okay. Oh, let's see. Looking for questions. Okay, Donnie, this is very broad-minded of you. You still respect those who dislike modern Trek, including those who dislike the final season of Picard. I know. We're big enough to take a few insults or differing opinions. I think so. Hey, Dave, glad you could make it. Yay. Oh, you guys are helloing each other. Sorry. Okay, I love bringing people together. There you go. Thank you for rounding me out. Main viewer is on the virtual TrekCon channel. There you go. And I'll be there in about 2.5 hours. All right. And thank you, Anne Marie, for posting the link. There you go. 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Hey, Daniel, good to see you. You remember doing Enterprise Season 3 or 4. You weren't able to show up at the protest, but you signed a lot of online petitions to keep it going. Yes. And online petitions were starting to be a thing. I kind of did too. You wanted Jack Jr. to say, Jean-Luc, you are my father. In the very Bridges, yes. The age-old question, do you order tacos for Taco Tuesday? If not now, when? Oh, the Cadet Alice shirt, as seen on Aaron Walke. Yes, indeed. Aaron bought one. I was going to send him one, and he bought one before I could send him. TeePublic. You guys missed a TeePublic sale last weekend if you didn't grab it. Thank you. Narda checking in from the Outback, as usual, down under. Well, gang, Worf's entrance was amazing. I'm just going to set you up to say the first real talkie scene he has. I just laugh. It's one of my favorite scenes so far in the. When they have a moment to take a breath, I just laughed and laughed. Not that it was a funny scene, but what I was expecting was exactly what happened. I will leave it there. Okay, whet your appetite for that sucker. Thank you, Christoph, for the Parrot's anchor. It wasn't much of one. Oh, why, thank you, Anne-Marie. That's the mug. Okay. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Let's see. That was the way you'd always wanted to see Worf. Yeah, Worf was kind of doing his Eldor impersonation, right? Yeah. Well, it's also modern fight choreography there, which they didn't have a lot of back in the day. His kick-ass Kurleth. Yes, indeed. Designed by Dan Curry and named for him with a K. This is the German translation I'm taking because the actor has not passed away, but the actor who dubbed him passed away. All righty. Scene between Picard and Crusher was amazing. Yeah, I talk about this scene. I said, did the telepathy not totally go away from Attached? No, they're not telepathic, but it was one of the more amazing non-dialogue scenes ever, especially. Oh, Rose, I thought we'd lost you, Rose, but you're very welcome. Yeah, I don't mean to just be a trip down memory lane. That's always trying to bring context just to remind people, the things that we do now, like they didn't always exist that way. And when they did change and just context for how the shows are produced, how fandom behaved, how media interacted with us, how things were bought and sold and distributed and viewed. It's all part of how we exist in this moment, how we look forward. Can't ever lose touch with context. Is not for kings. Sir, I am not a merry man about that title. Yes. Thank you I think you're talking about my second opinion here. Captain Asshole Shaw isn't as much of an antagonist as he was in the first episode. Well, are you a little bit different after the things you are dreading or you have an opinion about, strong opinions about, and when you meet it in the flesh, aren't you a little different than maybe if you survive more than 5 minutes with it, maybe your own expectation tends to alter, evolve? It might become pricklier or it might soften depending on what's going on. As things aren't static, stuck in time. I still love the line that Jack Crusher has about who knows what kind of person they're eventually going to be. Mona. Well, I am thank you. Hopefully it's not too painful to do, but thank you. I'm very touched. Thank you, Mona. And you got in just at the end of the month, hopefully. Christoph here with the Overseas Paramount Plus report in the GSA, German-speaking, Switzerland, Austria. They pissed off people with a lack of 4K content and audio language, but they keep adding content and actually answer comments on Facebook. But still no animated series. Thank you for that update, Christoph. Hey, John X, man of a million opinions. Remember the fundraising at 05 Well, and it was a big topic on the bulletin boards. Knowing a little about its production, I knew it was doomed to fail, but there was some deja vu from that 60s protest. Yeah, people were in love, feeling they were being romantic, by the aughts, the 60s and even 70s had a protest era. People were demanding change, and you went out and picketed and struck. And look how wimpy we all are now after the 90s, and we're all sitting around our cushions just on our social media. Well, not in 05, but we were going that way. And it made people get all romantic about the 60s protest years, the marches and the sit-ins, and civil rights and anti-Vietnam and anti-pollution and all of that. Yeah. Well, thank you. Between your mug order, Anne Marie, and Mona jumping in on my Patreon, this has been a very commercial day. Wait, what? Marina's here? Is Marina on the boat and she's in with us? Hopefully I didn't mute myself. Hopefully the stream got better too. When Enterprise was canceled, you said, damn, that's sad, but you hope for more. Yeah, but the way the group think of things like Hollywood, it's the same thing as government. Group think, well, Star Trek is down and tired out, so obviously we have to rest it a while. I will say that's one thing JJ shook up. But this was also the time when the fan films got big. The technology to download got better, and the fan films became hugely popular when there was nothing else to see, as well as everything else. Hey, Mark. This past weekend, you attended a local Comic-Con in Metro Detroit. You also wore your Season 3 TNG uniform. Got so many nice comments from strangers giving me the Vulcan salute, asking me questions about the new Trek shows, and showing more goodwill toward Trek. And you were surprised at how young many of the people who stopped to chat were. Well, yeah, everybody older is dying off and staying home. Bad weather. No, I'm being crude there, maybe, but the future is the future, and it's streaming, and it's out there promoting, and it's in your face, and there's on buses and billboards, and the places popping up in social media ad spaces. So yeah, it's and people who are watching Yellowstone might see the ads on Paramount Plus. Oh, she's saying the fundraising was amazing. A lot of people didn't know, but yeah, just remember that fundraising was all pre-crowdfunding. There was no Patreon, but there was no anything. GoFundMe. Is Moonves a Ferengi? Well, he is when you spell it like that. Put a Z in there and you can make anything a Ferengi. Should have been Sneeds. Yeah. Neither did I. You know what? You can be both. There is no limit to what you can be, Donnie. You can be whatever you want to be. Let's see. Well, this is true. You need to play the long game. And this was in the dying years. We were talking about not liking sci-fi. This was in the dying years of the last generation that hadn't won the Geek War. This is why we had the instructions from the organizers not to come in with uniforms on the rally day. Well, I wouldn't have anyway for media. But this is before every little local chamber of commerce was running around helping out anybody starting up a Comic-Con in their town of 50,000. Not denigrating it and not having sneering coffee shop waitresses spill coffee on your pancakes in derision to get you out of the thing so that the tables can go to normal people and get those Trekkie kids out of here. Those days were about to end. Quickly, they were already ending. It just took a while to penetrate down into the hinterlands. Yeah. Yes, Christoph, our YouTube quotient has been going up dramatically, and a lot of people came in on Virtual TrekCon. Well, it was the only thing, but a lot of people stuck with YouTube for things Trekland then after that. Okay. Always glad to see. Hey, LT, thank you for Patreoning as always. I'm waving back at you. Yes, Bonnie Friederici is General Beckman from Chuck. Well, I think they need to find room for sure. Zachary Levi could be in Trek. Fine with me. Fine with me. What do you do? Do you waste him as a human, or do you put him under some alien garb somewhere? What are you saying? Oh, John X. I always intrigued what you have to say. The funny thing was, in 2005, a huge number of online fandom thought Trek was over forever. I declared it would be back in 5 years. Well, the movie announced in 07 and the 09 movie was one of the two best movie-going experiences ever. Okay. But yeah, it was silly. Hollywood was in the middle of dragging everything it ever could to make a movie or sequelize it or reboot it. Like, we were having Beverly Hillbillies and Bewitched movies, and they were all most of them were badly handled. Things are happening now when there's a better chance for something old to be recycled, rebooted better. But for a long time, they had no clue about what the essence of a story was, and they just thought they would make it in color and glamorize it and throw a ton of money at it and get big stars in the cast, and it would be awesome. And how many failed 60s, 70s series into movies happened? I mean, they make the motion picture back in the day look like, the king. But that's true. There were so many pontificators and pundits in the mainstream. Oh, well, Star Trek had a good run. It's just died. It's too old and creaky. It's like, no, it's more like the producers are old and creaky. No tacos for you. Yeah. I told you not to engage. Will we hear engage in Picard season 3? I think we do. Haven't we already? I guess not. An actual question from Duralta. I'm so shocked. What do I consider as the worst and the best episode of New Trek? When you say New Trek, I guess you mean post 2017? The Kurtzman era? The streaming era? Worst? Oh, gosh. It's hard to... I'm trying to think of just outright trash. There are shows that... There's a lot in the streaming era that just blur together. There are some standouts, and you'd think, well, if it stands out in your memory, it must be good. Well, I can think, Nepenthe was an awe moment. I remember thinking that New Eden, I thought, was the best Discovery up to that time. A lot of that was because of Anson Mount and the away, it's like, oh, look, they're having an away team. What a concept. A landing party. What a concept. I can't do it yet. For one thing, it's evolved. And then factoring the animateds versus Yezdush I thought was amazing on Lower Decks. The whole, after 50 years, here's a new template for an episode, that had never been done before. Thought it was awesome. I don't know. I thought, Prodigy Time Amok was the best use of a graphic to get across a wacky time construct. And it was on a kid level. Cadet Alice got it. I mean, I can think of some highlight moments. I hadn't even mentioned Strange New here. Vulcan hijinks, just it's hard. And as a bad episode, I don't remember. I'm sure I did. I think they're going to groan a lot with the Elon Musk Junior Middle School. My retcon for that is that someone in the Musk family later on wanted to renovate the name and make it better for future. So they were 10 times the great person that their namesake forebear was. And that's who the school is named for. Elon Musk the second or something. Of course, he needs to hurry up and have kids and unname his name. Anyway, but I'm not thinking in terms of whole episodes, really. I'm thinking of moments. Hey, Marina, there you are. Can't stream. Greetings from the Trek cruise, of course. I did not expect to see you, Marina, or tomorrow night for ADT, for the roundtable. But it's good to hear from you. You'll have to hear all about it when you get back, as I'm sure we will, and we'll watch the flow of photos. Worf is a pacifist and Picard is Beverly's baby daddy? Melanie, you should stop spreading rumors like that. Oh, wait, it's episode 2 is out. Well, wait do you see Worf's brand of pacifism? I think it means doing yoga every time before he goes into battle. Is there anything wrong with Picard being Beverly's baby daddy if Kirk was Carol Marcus's baby daddy? There were reasons. Texture, not trivia. Come on. Well, there you go, Mona. Yeah, trips down memory lane, I think of as the people who experienced it doing it. It's nostalgia. It's class reunion, 2 a.m. time. Otherwise, it's just sharing the history. It's getting everybody up to speed. Context is for paupers, if you want to look at it that way. Context is for everyone. Aha, John X, you were not blown away by Picard 2 episode either, but you did do a second viewing and your opinion softened somewhat. I really want the scripts to make more sense to go with the fun. Yeah, we had this conversation, right? Yeah. Well, if cutting off heads is passive, well, it was self-defense. Obviously, it was self-defense. Context is not trivia. Yeah, that's kind of the backwards way of saying texture, not trivia. Think of it that way, right? Concerning Jack Crusher, he's a bit of a Han Solo character, right? While we're at the Star Trek Wars crossover. Maybe if Han Solo had been a radical doctor-ish. Brown nose. No, she's in New York. It's got to be red these days. And the fan films enable me to play McCoy. Right. I just wish I had more time. Wish I'd been able to prepare more better. I'm not dead. Exactly. Larry, who will be your next guest on Trek Files? Hey, John. Well, we are lining some people up. We've got several guests coming. I've got an all-new guest. We recorded some. It will be back for another 5 weeks or so. But we have some people in the pipeline. I need to get off my butt and get that done now that this other hoo-ha has gone away. Oh, Narda, there is no such thing as a silly question. But are any of the fan films available on DVD? Probably not, but just thought you'd ask. Well, not to sell or not to buy. If you write to some of the producers and they're still walking the planet, they will burn DVDs for you. And sometimes they have DVDs giveaways at conventions and things. I know you're going to be getting yours by mail. So I would just visit the Facebook pages, the websites, whatever you can do, social media, and just ask someone if a DVD is available. Some of them have easy download files that you can burn to a DVD or at least put on a computer. The only thing you don't like about the new phase of Trek, the powers that be, needed to call the book canon, since the book canon was quite okay. Well, Duralta, tell that to all the TV writers who don't just want to translate somebody they don't even know, who's not in the room with them now, their book from 15 years ago. Now, that's the same thing you might say as art people and production designers, visual effects people. But it's a different thing. Visuals are much more powerful than words. Don't shoot me. Picture's worth 1,000 words, right? But you can't have a new show, hire writers and tell them, okay, we're just going to translate. We're just going to novelize. We're going to do an adapted screenplay from all these novels from before. It's not going to happen. It doesn't work that way. Random bits and pieces, factoids might come out, but not just a slave to that plot line. Get those Trekkie kids out of here, Mona, reminds you of the Deadheads landing in a small town, your town, during a concert. Yeah, but not exactly, right? It's the spoken, not the reality, right? Right. It's the reaction. Looking for oh yeah, well, yeah, Zach's tall. He could be a Klingon, but I was just trying to be more creative. Some other race we don't see very often. Taco Tuesday. Yeah, the Bewitched movie with Nicole Kidman had nothing to do with the original Bewitched. I mean, it was the vibe was not there. Hey, Narda, you personally hate it when they try to remake any old show. Strange New Worlds is an exception because we only had the one episode. Leave the old shows alone, make new shows. Yeah, yeah. What do I think about the short treks? Well, they're not very long. They're kind of fillers, but they're also kind of standalones. How will they eventually be classified? That's a good question. I mean, to me, the short treks are lab theater. They're experiments. They're short, small budget experiments in concepts or in characters or in actors, writers, directors, visual effects, composers. And a lot of folks got their start. They got their feet wet doing a short trek without committing a ton of money and a ton of resources to like an hour episode. They could go and sample that. Or they could use it as marketing and flesh out something that adds more insight to, like Poe in early Discovery, Poe the Princess. I'm with you, Narda. It's hard to pick without having a lot of rewatch and have it soak in over time, right? Yeah. Elon Musk Jr. Middle School. Okay, his kid has to rename himself when he has the bizarre name, I think. We'll see what happens. You love Strange. It's your number 3 current Star Trek show so far. Have I got you just calling it Strange? I was yelled at for not calling it Strange New Worlds. Why is one syllable so different? It's the same thing as Next Gen was Next Gen to the crew, and Deep Space Nine was Deep Space. They didn't say DS9 and TNG, the crews. They just said Next Gen and Deep Space. Your least favorite episode of the Kurtzman era, Mark, is really Stardust City Rag. The gory violence was a turnoff. See, when I think of Stardust City Rag, I think of the wacky pimp and nightclub outfits they wore, and Picard's patch and stupid French accent. I forget that it started with that horrible Icha murder scene, basically. But point totally taken. What did I think of the Get Smart movie with Steve Carell? It was okay. We're coming closer in time, though. It's not so much in the mid-aughts. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. movie wasn't bad either. It was actually really well done. It wasn't the same vibe as the original, but I thought the bones came through, if not the vibe. Okay. Hey, Lawrence, LT, what's my take on some of the new Trek haters coming around about Picard season? You mean the ones who are changing their tune? Well, it's a reflection of combination of all the goodness that Dave Blass unleashed visually in season 2, but it couldn't conquer the world. And so Terry is helping that same vibe conquer the world. Now you got the writer's room in simpatico with the production, the art department, and everything visual. And now that you've got everything clicking, all the gears in sync, then I think that's what it is. Let me see here. Glad we're all figuring out what Bewitched is. That's good. Well, Melanie, remember, these are chapters, not episodes. So Worf and Vadic and Jack Crusher, what's the deal with all these people? There you go. Christian, we're always glad you can make it. Yay. Hey, William. Yes, I'm going to be at SoonerCon. Absolutely. Thanks to all the SoonerCon folks for having me back once again. They don't have to, but it's always so good to go back. The short treks are so short they only reach to the UK, but not to Europe. Yeah. I love short treks, and so do you. Mm-hmm. Picard Season 3, Episode 2, Zahir, contains the only gratuitous violence in Star Trek that you'll allow. Are we talking about the sword fight? The Kurlev fight at the end? Hello, Andrew. Is this your first time with us? If not, if so, yay. If not, glad to see you. What did Manu do to deserve his character to get killed off using another actor? Well, I know he's regretted it much, but he had some problematical. Well, I'd just say he was controversial in some of the things he did personally in the early days of social media, and he's regretted it since, but it's kind of stuck to him, and he looks for ways to redeem himself. You know, and that's kind of it. Other folks can tell you more what's going on. It's been several years, maybe been 8 or 10 years now. Oh, well, but if they're going to write their own stories, then they have to interweave it with what was established. Yeah, I didn't mean to scriptify the books per se, but just having their hands tied about where things went. They may do look at it as a gourmet, as a buffet, and pick and choose what they might want to use. It's also about credit and who gets credit. And if they credit and use those things wholesale or even in big chunks, then they have to give them credit, and that slices up the residual pie, and you're there. And there's only 10 episodes now, not 26. Well, I think we're going to hear a little bit more about Vatic. We're going to hear a lot more about everybody, I think. This is very true. As was announced, the Voyager doc, the last interviews are being wrapped up on the boat. And unlike some documentaries, they have a fully staffed post-production crew to jump in on things. Here you go. So far, the score by Stephen Barton, another Terry pullover. Interior of the Titan A and Captain Riker's alternate Starfleet uniforms are what I love best about the final season of Picard. I'm sorry, Donnie. I need details. I need specifics, Donnie. The score is something else. Yes. And look at this. Are we at the end of the chat? We could be at the end of the chat here. Okay, Narda, we'll listen to you here. Just to explain why you're against all these remakes, they never seem to have anything in common with the original. And the characters are usually nothing like the original actors. Also, it seems all they make today is so-called reality. True. And I can't stand that crapola. Neither can I. It just insults my intelligence. I just groan. It makes me cringe even more than comic book movie fights. It just go on and on and on. Oh, they're like soap operas that people think are substantial or something. The perfect character for, yeah, Doralta, but see, then they'd have to go and pay him. They'd have to go and pay going blank. Captain Calhoun's creator, author, the great author who did Q-in-Law and has written tons of Trek novels over the years, as well as other franchise and original novels. Yeah, I think so too, Doralta. I think so too. It's the end of the chat as we know it. Well, the cruisers are cruising. You all are here with me on Tuesday, and I just thought it seemed like people were hungry for that history. So there you go, a little more detailed history, and making it relevant to today, where every week is a new protest on something of Star Trek. No, I'm kidding. Things have cooled down a little bit, don't you think? I think so too. Well, thanks everybody for being in. Don't forget, we can put the links up again too, but don't forget this auction going on. Sandy Freeze's gear and others are in there. Don't forget that if you are coming to LA on business or vacation and you have a day to spare, you can hook up with me for a Trekland Treks, and we'll do your own custom away mission that you design with my help and guidance. Or we do 2 days, whatever, 4 stops in 1 day. The list goes on. I'm getting the Picard places assimilated. I need to go scout them. Maybe I'll do it because you want to go there. But don't forget you can do that when you're in LA. It won't always be raining and snowing in LA. I hope, God. Kalis, the prophets. So, yeah, that's going to do it for us, gang. Thank you to everybody for checking out the TeePublic store. Thank you, Anne-Marie. Don't forget it. They occasionally have sales, like twice a month. There's a sale. There'll probably be one in a couple of weeks over the weekend. Thanks for that. Don't forget our Patreons. Yay. Thank you, folks, once again for joining our TTL clubs and our live wires. And again, very simple. It's rounded up at the end of the month. So thank you, Mona, for jumping in. You'll be next week. $5 and $10. We keep it simple. And the Trek Files, once again, no new episode this week. We're on hiatus till late March. But you've got plenty of time to dive back through the back catalog. A lot of folks are not with us anymore. Dorothy Fontana, I'm looking at you. Richard Arnold, I'm looking at you. Thinking of you anyway. But yeah, also lots of folks, more and more who are working on the current shows are jumping in to look at then and now with us. Speaking of context is for everybody. And of course, everywhere you go, please, please like and subscribe right now on the YouTube if that's where you are, or the Facebook, or the Instagram. Go over there. A lot of fun stuff. Some revelations are happening on my Instagram, and I'm going to get more into that here in the next few days. Speaking of background stories, but learning to check on Twitter and Mastodon and portal47.net. Haven't had anybody come in since the holiday specials. Love to have you jump in with us if you enjoy the way I go at Star Trek and canon and backgrounding and the big picture. You get it every month with a great, great Portales community. We deep dive the folks who make Star Trek that you're never going to hear from or in this detail live, bringing along their own photos and artwork. And I know we're going to circle back and have Dave Blass, have Andrew Jarvis, have Tim Peel again. A lot of the folks who are the creatives who are coming up, and have more of the writers. We're going to get that. Love to have you with us there. And for that right now, I think that's it. Thank you all for joining in on a Tuesday here. Again, if you're watching this, you're not watching later. But you know what? It never hurts to go back and catch one of these or anything else that's going on the Second Opinions, Dr. Trek and Cadet Alice, any of our shows that are on some of the live specials we've done. Love to have you come over and catch that. Leave a comment, drive up the numbers, and check out the channel because it's 2023, not 2008 anymore, in case you hadn't noticed, or even 2005, and we're fighting to save Enterprise. All right, everybody. That's going to do it. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you. We will see you. Just, stay healthy, do all the things. Okay, stay woke, check your sources, and Trek well, everybody.